Hey guys, and welcome back to the BSofSociety. So, let's talk about bubble universes. If you don't know what bubble universes are, or especially the bubble universe theory, basically it states that every universe, including our own, is just a bubble in a field of other bubbles, right? And every bubble is another universe with events that might be similar, but there are certain little minute differences that change the course of history for each universe and is what makes them different, right? So, this is basically what the bubble universe theory is. And basically this theory makes it to where we aren't the only universe, which would make sense because look all around you. There's more than one of everything, right? And this is kind of what I wanted to talk about, right? I would like to talk about Hunky Impact third, and then kind of discuss why I believe in the bubble universe. Talk about Hunky Energy, and then maybe whatever else, and then I want to close off this video. That is going to be the structure of this video or series of videos. So let's get started. So, Hunky Impact 3, or even Hunky Impact 2, if you want to look at that one as well, which is basically Gun Girl Z, are games made by MiHoYo, right? The same company that has made Genshin. Now, MiHoYo is a company that has played with the bubble universe theory time and time again, even in the main storylines. Okay? So, the first instance that they play with the bubble universe theory is when Bronya enters the Sea of Quenta. The Sea of Quenta is basically a void, so to speak, where you can basically see all of the bubbles, but they're not as condensed as that. It's actually pretty hard to get from one universe to another. Basically for the purpose of you're not supposed to leave your own universe. In the Sea of Quenta is basically where the Hunky, the main force of the game, resides. You go outside your own universe, you're likely going to die. You're likely not going to make it back. Now, Bronya enters the Sea of Quenta to find one of the, Hunky gems. I believe she was looking for like the Gem of Desire or whatever, but she ended up finding a different gem. But she also ends up coming across a friend that I don't know if she thought she lost her or whatever. I can't remember that far. But she basically runs across a girl named Sele. And this is a Sele that belonged to her universe. Now, what was happening to Sele was that she was basically stuck in a bubble universe that was kind of repeating itself. Every single time she did an action that was kind of wrong, that made the universe kind of spin into a direction it wasn't supposed to go, it's kind of like she got taken out of that bubble universe and put into one almost identical, right? Until she got it right. And then she got brought out of that series of bubbles into another, right? And then eventually she finally gets back to her own world where we continue the Hunky Impact story. Now, in terms of the main storyline, we don't really have another instance of bubble universes per se. I mean, we have an instance of like illusions, but not really another bubble universe until we get to the extension of chapter 25. If y'all played the De Ankara Durandal event back in like November or so of 2020, basically you find out that when Durandal was about 12 years old, she went into a bubble universe that Odo wanted her to basically go and save. Every universe has basically an anchor that kind of is what keeps it alive. It's what keeps the bubble from breaking, right? Now, the Hunky and Hunky Impact, which if you look at the translation of Hunky, from Japanese to English, if I remember correctly, it basically translates to collapse, right? So Hunky craves the collapse of universes, right? Often in Hunky Impact, you'll hear Hunky be referred to as Hunky energy or collapse energy, destructive energy, right? This is an energy that does indeed exist in every universe, including our own. It doesn't have to be a physical force like the Hunky. Okay. Now, Durandal essentially failed in her initial mission because the Hunky does indeed destroy this single anchor, and the universe starts to fall apart. However, Durandal is the one that saved it. Now, keep in mind, I'm not referring to the Valkyrie. I'm referring to the sword. There was a sword in this universe named Durandal that when you found all of the gems that it could absorb to increase its power, it would basically have enough power to act as another anchor. Now, the Valkyrie Durandal, whose real name is actually Bianca, absorbs this sword, which basically means she becomes the anchor that holds this universe together. And this is when Bianca takes the name of Durandal. Okay. Which basically means that Durandal's soul in her entire persona is basically what holds this universe together. If the Hunky or anybody else were to kill Durandal, this bubble universe would die. It would burst into a million different parts and cease to exist. There are other instances of bubble universes in the events that have existed throughout Hunky Impact, specifically with like Captain's Bizarre Adventure, where the captain basically goes from universe to universe to universe, often forgetting what he's supposed to be doing. But you just see a bunch of different universes and different series of events of every single world. The last event that was just there was basically a dream world of Sele, where the Hunky were actually more like Pokemon in a way. They weren't actually destructive. Right? So you can kind of see the differences among every single world, even just in Hunky Impact alone. Right? Now, in Hunky Impact, there are two major things besides the bubble universes. The Sea of Quenta, which I've already mentioned, again, is basically a sea of bubbles. You can't really see the bubbles too much. Imagine in our own universe where the galaxies spread more apart, where basically it would be pretty rare to get from one galaxy to another. That is basically the Sea of Quenta. The void in between all the galaxies is the Sea of Quenta, right? where it's basically just all or nothing. And pretty much the only thing that exists there is quantum Hunky, right? And anybody else who managed to get trapped within the Sea Quenta. And then there's one other very important structure called the imaginary tree. The way I pictured the Sea Quenta and the imaginary tree is basically kind of similar to the end in Minecraft. When you enter the end, you basically enter the main island, which you can kind of imagine where the imaginary tree sits, because this is where the main Minecraft world exists, right? In that little fountain, that's where the Minecraft world exists. Now, instead of it being a fountain, imagine an imaginary tree that holds thousands upon thousands of different universes. Okay? And then when you spread out and you have all those little islands away from the imaginary tree, those are all of your bubble universes. So, imagine yourself building basically a dome around these little islands, putting a bunch of trees and all that, and treating each and every single one of these as its own universe. That is basically the Sea Quenta in the imaginary tree. Now, this imaginary tree is very important. According to Odo's findings in the main story, basically this imaginary tree protects the universes that is binded to it from the Hunky. Okay? So what Odo plans to do in the new extension of chapter 25 is basically take this universe that's binded to Durandal and bind it artificially to the imaginary tree, and then basically separate this universe from Durandal. Because theoretically, this imaginary tree should be able to protect the universe from the Hunky and prevent the universe from being destroyed. And I guess that would also mean that the imaginary tree would also act as an anchor, kind of similar to the limb of a leaf. So basically, in the imaginary tree, instead of there being bubble universes, it's basically leaf universes, right? Leaves can't be destroyed as easily as a bubble can. A bubble, all you really have to do is take a needle to it and it pops. A leaf, even if you step on it, the odds of it breaking are very slim, right? Therefore, protecting it from destruction. So, for the bubble universe theory, Hunky Impact especially plays with it pretty well and has even more different theories than just the bubbles. Where you have an imaginary enemy force called the Hunky that craves to basically pop every single bubble, where you have a tree that essentially turns these bubbles into leaves, protecting them from being able to be destroyed. And the reason why I wanted to mention Hunky Impact in this video as well is because I want to look at it in terms of our universe, okay? We don't have hunky beasts in our world. We don't have zombies. Our world is actually one of the most peaceful universes that could ever exist. However, even among, universes that are in a leaf shape instead of a bubble, there is still destructive energy that can destroy it. Leaves eventually decay. Leaves eventually fall apart from the tree and fly away, once again becoming another bubble universe. Being able to be destroyed, most brown leaves, you can step on them and easily break them. This would be no trouble for the Hunky. Hunky, and more specifically Hunky energy, exists in every universe. Whether it's just for the destruction of stars or nuclear bombs, they exist. In Hunky Impact, Hunky exists as a physical being named Hunky that you can physically fight with weapons. That's not the case in our universe, is it? COVID-19 is an example of the Hunky. Ourselves are an example of the Hunky. Look at what happened last summer. In 2020, we were at each other's throats. Somebody was controlling everybody. They were controlling the narrative. There's a Hesher in Hunky Impact named the Hesher Dominance that's basically broken up into like 1,000 different puppets. That was what last summer was. Last summer was a big demonstration of what the Hunky can do. And they were doing it through humans alone. No zombies, no hunky beasts. We ourselves are the Hunky of this universe. Look at how much destruction we have already caused to animals and life alone. And then look at what we do to ourselves. Humans will be the cause of their own demise in this universe. We will destroy our own universe. This is why the Hunky in every single universe pretty much wants to destroy everything, because 1, it's in their name. 2, humans are trash. And even in a universe where Hunky doesn't exist, we are still at each other's throats. Right? So, looking at Hunky energy is also very important because you know that it exists. You just got to figure out where it exists so you can eradicate it. And in our universe, it's ourselves. Especially those that just want to fight all the time. It's much harder to fight an enemy that looks like yourself. In Hunky, the Hunky looks like Hunky. In a zombie apocalypse, the Hunky looks like zombies. But in our universe, the Hunky looks like ourselves. So, even the same form of destruction is not always the same in every bubble universe. And that's why I wanted to mention Hunky Impact and its role in describing the bubble universe. Now I want to get into why I believe in it. Why I believe in the bubble universe theory.